Everyone knows Storm controls the weather. It is the first thing you learn about the X-Men. She makes it rain, she shoots lightning, she creates tornadoes. But if that is where your knowledge of Ororo Munroe ends, you are missing the most terrifying part of the story. Because Storm isn't just a weather manipulator, she is an Omega Level Mutant. And in the current era of Marvel Comics, that classification means something very specific. It means her power has no definable upper limit. Today, we are looking at the evolution of a character who started as a street thief in Cairo, picking pockets to survive, and ended up as the Regent of Sol, terraforming entire planets and holding her own against cosmic entities. This isn't just a history lesson. This is a power-scaling breakdown of how a human woman became a literal goddess of the solar system. This is the evolution of Storm. To understand the god, you have to understand the human. Ororo Munroe's power doesn't come from a lab experiment or a super soldier serum. It comes from survival. Born to a Kenyan princess and an American photojournalist, her early life was tragic. She wasn't raised in a palace, she was raised in the rubble. When she was just a child living in Cairo, Egypt, a plane crashed into her home during the Suez Crisis. Her parents were killed instantly. Ororo was buried alive under the debris, trapped next to the body of her mother. This single moment defined her entire psychological profile. It gave her severe claustrophobia, a crippling fear of enclosed spaces that would haunt her for decades. But it also forged a will of iron. She didn't die in that rubble. She dug her way out. Orphaned and alone on the streets of Cairo, she didn't manifest her powers immediately. Instead, she learned to survive the hard way. She was taken in by Ahmed El-Gibar, a master thief who ran a guild of street urchins. Ororo became his prized pupil. She wasn't blasting enemies with lightning. She was picking locks and stealing wallets. She learned stealth, hand-to-hand combat, and how to read people. Before she ever flew, she learned how to disappear. This is critical for power scaling because it means Storm is dangerous even without her powers. Most Omega-level mutants rely entirely on their genetic gifts. If you take away their powers, they are helpless. But Storm was a master thief before she was a mutant. She has the tactical mind of a guerrilla fighter. Eventually, the call of her ancestry pulled her south. She made a brutal trek across the Sahara Desert alone. It was during this journey, facing death by exposure, that her mutation finally kicked in. She didn't just survive the elements, she commanded them. She brought rain to the desert. By the time she reached the Serengeti in Kenya, she wasn't a thief anymore. The local tribes worshipped her. They called her a goddess. And for a long time, she believed them. She spent her adolescence flying through the skies, bringing rain to drought-stricken villages, and protecting the land. She was playing God, but she was still a big fish in a small pond. She had raw power, but no training, no discipline. That would only come when a man in a wheelchair arrived to recruit her. This brings us to one of the greatest struggles that Storm had ever gone through. It was the tragedy of the life-death era. During this time, Ororo Munroe was stripped of her mutant powers, her connection to the elements severed, leaving her unable to summon storms or control the forces that had defined her as an Omega-level mutant. For the first time in her life, the weather obeyed no command, and her identity as one of the most formidable mutants was called into question. Stripped of her abilities, she returned to the X-Men under a new lens, forced to lead and survive with only her experience, intellect, and unbreakable will. The team was fractured, morale low, and the world increasingly hostile toward mutants, demanding more than raw power to guide them. Storm stepped into the void and challenged Cyclops for leadership of the X-Men, not with her Omega-level strength, but with strategy, intuition, and an uncompromising vision for the team. With no powers to rely on, she outmaneuvered Cyclops politically and tactically, demonstrating that leadership could transcend sheer force and that respect could be earned through judgment and courage. Her victory over Cyclops established a precedent. Ororo's authority did not derive solely from her mutant gifts, but from mastery of strategy, diplomacy, and decisive action in moments of crisis. Even powerless, she proved herself capable of unifying a fractured team, resolving conflicts among strong-willed mutants, and maintaining focus under extreme pressure. This era refined her tactical skills to a razor's edge, teaching her the value of patience, timing, and precision in ways that raw power alone never could. During her powerless leadership, she encountered threats that tested her understanding of both human and mutant nature, learning how to anticipate moves and counter them without relying on destruction. It was Forge who eventually restored her connection to her Omega abilities, crafting a way for her to reclaim control over the elements and return to her full mutant potential. The return of her powers was not merely a restoration, it was a transformation. She emerged from the life-death era sharper, more disciplined, and with a profound understanding of the responsibilities inherent in her abilities. No longer could she rely on instinct alone. Every storm, every bolt of lightning, every climatic shift she commanded was now executed with precision born of experience. Her Omega-level power, already formidable, had been tempered by necessity, restraint, and the insight gained while powerless. Storm's elemental control became more integrated with her tactical mind, allowing her to manipulate environments and opponents simultaneously in ways previously unimagined. The experience also heightened her reputation as a unifying force. Mutants who once doubted her now deferred not only to her power, but to her judgment and ability to coordinate diverse abilities toward a common goal. By the end of Life-Death, Storm had transformed from a hero defined by raw strength into a master tactician, a leader whose command extended over people, strategy, and environment alike. Her return to full power was not a simple reversion, but an escalation of her Omega abilities, magnified by the lessons of weakness, strategy, and survival under duress. No longer just a weather-controlling mutant, she had become a force capable of commanding respect, inspiring loyalty, and managing crises on scales far beyond any single battlefield. The hardships of life-death instilled in her the patience, discipline, and decisiveness that would define her leadership in Wakanda and beyond. Storm's mastery of her powers and her team had reached a new apex. Her Omega-level abilities now fused seamlessly with her tactical brilliance, making her not just a mutant hero, but a strategist capable of reshaping outcomes on multiple levels. By the close of this era, she had emerged fully transformed, a leader who demanded respect, an Omega-level mutant whose power was now amplified by intellect and experience, and a figure whose presence alone inspired awe. It was this combination of regained power and refined mastery that laid the groundwork for her next chapter as Queen of Wakanda, where her abilities and leadership would continue to escalate. Following the Life-Death era, Ororo Munroe ascended to the role of Queen of Wakanda alongside King T'Challa. Her crown was not symbolic. Wakanda demanded leadership, protection, and wisdom, and Storm provided all three in equal measure. Even at this stage, she was an Omega-level mutant, able to manipulate weather, atmospheric energy, and elemental forces on scales few could comprehend. Her powers were not abstract or cosmic, yet they were precise, vast, and infinitely scalable, making her a living force of nature within the kingdom. Storm stabilized the nation's climate, summoned rains to nourish drought-stricken lands, and shielded Wakanda from hurricanes and deadly storms, demonstrating that her abilities extended beyond combat. She led troops in battle, not as a commander behind walls, but as an active force, bending the elements to overwhelm invaders and protect her people. Each act of mastery reinforced her reputation. Storm was not just a queen or a mutant, she was a protector whose power could decide the survival of a nation. Omega-level rivals and foreign threats alike measured themselves against her, quickly realizing that her control over Wakanda's environment elevated her beyond ordinary confrontation. Storm's rule required balance. She learned to temper her raw strength with strategy and diplomacy, mediating disputes while maintaining authority. She resolved internal conflicts among Wakandan factions, guided by the principle that her power existed to protect life and enforce stability. Storm's mastery of planetary-scale elements made her presence awe-inspiring. Even those who knew her as a monarch could not ignore the near-divine precision of her abilities. Though she did not yet wield the cosmic might of an abstract entity, her influence over the world around her hinted at a power far beyond ordinary Omega mutants. In combat, she did not rely solely on raw force. She integrated her control of weather, wind, and energy with tactical foresight, turning the battlefield itself into an extension of her will. Storm's Omega-level abilities became inseparable from her leadership. Every thunderstorm, every lightning strike, every protective gale reinforced her authority. The citizens of Wakanda revered her not only as queen, but as a being whose presence reshaped reality itself on a national scale. Her reign was tested by external invaders, natural disasters, and political rivals, yet she emerged each time with precision and control that few could challenge. Storm's discipline in wielding her powers grew alongside her reputation. Her mastery was admired and feared by allies and enemies alike. Even among other Omega-level mutants, she stood apart. Her ability to combine governance, strategy, and elemental control created a force that transcended singular domains. She was not divine, yet in function she resembled the guardians and gods of legend, her acts of protection and control giving the impression of omnipotence. Storm's tenure as queen solidified her understanding of power. True mastery required wisdom, restraint, and an awareness of the consequences of one's force. Through her rulership, she demonstrated that Omega-level mutants could shape not only battles, but the fate of nations themselves. Every successful defense, every weather stabilization, every resolved conflict reinforced her aura of authority, teaching those around her that her reach extended beyond mere physical might. The Queen of Wakanda became a symbol of both protection and awe, her power visible, tangible, and undeniable. In this era, Storm's legend grew, not through conquest of cosmic realms, but through mastery of her own world, laying the foundation for the extraordinary heights she would later achieve. In the modern Krakoan age, mutants undertook what was once unthinkable. They reshaped Mars into a new mutant homeland, a world that would come to be known as Arakko. This transformation was achieved through the combined efforts of the strongest mutants, each contributing their Omega-level abilities to terraform the barren planet into a thriving ecosystem capable of supporting life. Storm played a pivotal role in this process, using her unparalleled control over weather and planetary forces to stabilize the atmosphere, regulate climate, and create the foundation for Arakko's complex ecosystems. With the red planet gradually turning green under their guidance, the newly forming world became the focus of interstellar attention and the center of mutant ambition. Recognizing her leadership, Krakoa and the emerging Araki society formally appointed Storm as Regent of Sol, granting her authority over the governance of the solar system's mutant territories and the new Arakko itself. Her authority was sanctioned by Krakoa's ruling council and acknowledged by the Araki, who respected strength proven through action and backed by SWORD, which recognized Arakko as a legitimate planetary polity. As regent, Storm's responsibilities extended beyond governance. She directed terraforming efforts, coordinated mutant resources, and oversaw the integration of Martian and Earthborne technologies to accelerate Arakko's development. Her feats included stabilizing Mars's atmosphere against extreme solar flares, generating rainfall to seed oceans, and using her powers to form weather systems capable of sustaining complex ecosystems. Storm's command over the planet's natural forces allowed her to simultaneously mitigate conflicts among Omega-level mutants assigned to oversee different regions of the New World. Early in her tenure, she confronted challenges from factions resistant to centralized control, using her mastery over the elements to demonstrate authority without unnecessary violence. Storm also faced internal trials from Omega-level mutants testing her leadership, including skirmishes with powerful shapeshifters and ancient mutants whose abilities could disrupt Arakko's developing environment. Each confrontation reinforced her legitimacy and expanded her reputation as a mutant capable of shaping worlds, not merely defending them. Through diplomacy and force, she established a council to advise her, blending traditional Araki warrior customs with Krakoan ideals of cooperation and mutual respect. Her leadership style emphasized partnership over hierarchy, earning her trust among those who initially doubted a single mutant's ability to govern an entire planet. Storm's successes in Arakko's creation demonstrated that her power extended beyond combat. She could literally mold planetary conditions, making her an unparalleled force in the solar system. The planet's gradual emergence as a habitable world was inseparable from her direct influence, and every stable ecosystem, every moderated storm, testified to her command. Storm also acted as the voice of Sol, representing Ororo and the broader solar system in diplomatic relations with extraterrestrial powers and other planetary governments. Through these interactions, she negotiated trade, defense agreements, and mutual recognition, ensuring Ororo's place as a legitimate and respected member of the interstellar community. Her leadership stabilized the fledgling society, creating a foundation that would allow Ororo to grow into a self-sufficient and thriving mutant nation. By the time Ororo became fully habitable, Storm's influence was evident not only in its climate and ecosystems, but also in its political and social structures. Her ability to integrate multiple Omega Level Mutants powers into a cohesive system of governance and planetary management set a precedent for future mutant settlements. Storm's work demonstrated that her authority came from achievement, mastery, and the respect she commanded, rather than inherited titles or raw reputation. Under her guidance, Ororo became more than a terraforming project. It became a symbol of mutant innovation, resilience, and sovereignty. Storm's role as Regent of Sol solidified her as a central figure in the Krakoan Age, bridging the gap between mutant ambition and interstellar recognition. Through her vision, determination, and Omega-level abilities, she transformed a dead planet into a living world, securing her legacy as one of the most consequential mutants in history. And it was on this very world, brought to life under her hand, that Storm's powers would find their true proving ground. Ororo was no longer just a terraformed paradise. It became a crucible where Omega-level mutants tested her leadership and her might. The planet itself seemed to respond to her presence, storms bending to her will, rivers shifting at her command, and mountains forming beneath her gaze. As Storm's powers continued to scale, responsibilities naturally fell into her lap. On Ororo, she was recognized as one of the most powerful Omega-level mutants, and like most mutant strongholds, Ororo was not without its struggles. Forged in endless war, Ororo respected only strength, and leadership was constantly challenged. When Storm accepted the mantle of Regent, she entered a volatile world destabilized by rivalries among Omega-level champions. Her command of the elements was unmatched, and her first great test came against Vulcan, whose control of stellar and nuclear energies threatened to tear the planet apart. Rather than matching him in raw power, Storm expanded the scale of the battlefield itself, manipulating planetary atmospherics, radiation flows, and electromagnetic forces to counter him. Through these confrontations, her mastery became undeniable. Other Omegas recognized that her influence did not merely rival theirs, it governed the systems they relied upon. Storm's victories on Ororo were not simply fights. They were demonstrations that her Omega-level powers had reached an exponential scale, reshaping the very environment and hierarchy of the planet. By the time the conflicts had settled, she was not just a leader or a mutant of unmatched strength. She was a force that lesser beings could only describe as something beyond themselves, an elemental authority that commanded both respect and awe. As Storm's powers continued to scale, responsibilities naturally fell into her lap. On Ororo, she was recognized as one of the most powerful Omega-level mutants, and like most mutant strongholds, Ororo was not without its struggles. Forged in endless war, Ororo respected only strength, and leadership was measured not by lineage, but by survival and dominance. When Storm assumed the role of Regent, she entered a world already ruled by Omega-level mutants whose power eclipsed most of Earth's. The central conflict was instability, Vulcan's volatile reign, ancient rivalries, and a society where war was the default state of order. Storm was not a cosmic entity like the Phoenix Force, Eternity, or the Living Tribunal. Her substance remained mutant, not abstract or omniversal. Yet her power output and control were so immense that, to lesser beings, the distinction became irrelevant. Her confrontation with Vulcan proved this difference decisively. Vulcan wielded stellar and nuclear energies on a catastrophic scale, but Storm matched him by commanding Ororo's entire atmospheric, seismic, and electromagnetic system at once. She did not overpower Vulcan through raw excess, but through total environmental dominance, bending the planet itself to enforce balance and break his control. That victory resolved Oroko's greatest internal conflict and publicly established Storm as the apex force on the planet. Other Omegas, including Iska the Unbeaten and Sabanar of the Depths, recognized that Storm's authority operated above individual domains. She did not replace their power. She encompassed it, regulating the systems they depended on. Storm's influence extended beyond combat. She stabilized political rivalries, mediated territorial disputes, and coordinated mutant resources across the planet. To the Araki, beings who define gods by function rather than origin, Storm became something more than mutant leadership. Her ability to impose order on a society defined by war and survival made her presence both feared and revered. Though not divine in substance, her power reshaped worlds, ended wars, and enforced planetary balance on a scale previously unseen in mutant kind. Her command over the elements became a symbol of authority, a tangible reminder that Oroko's survival rested in her hands. Storm's victories were studied, emulated, and sometimes contested by other Omegas, yet no one could match the totality of her control. It was this gap between what she was and what she could do that led Ororo to regard Storm as something greater than themselves. Her reputation spread beyond the planet, influencing allies and rivals throughout the solar system, further cementing her role as Regent of Sol. Storm did not seek worship, yet the results of her mastery produced awe comparable to divine power. The planet itself seemed to respond to her will, with storms, oceans, and tectonics bending in accordance with her intent. Every demonstration of strength, every resolved conflict, every stabilized system added weight to her presence, raising her above ordinary Omega-level authority. It was on this world, born from mutant ambition and elemental mastery, that Storm's power would continue to escalate, setting the stage for her eventual recognition as something approaching the divine, a precursor to the goddess she would later become. In the newest Storm series, Ororo Munroe's journey transforms from earthbound Omega mutant into a figure of cosmic consequence. The central storyline driving this growth is the Thunder War arc, where the very fabric of reality is threatened by Hadad, the first and oldest storm god known in the Marvel Universe. Hadad is portrayed as a threat beyond ordinary villains, an elemental being so powerful that even Eternity briefly abandons the universe to intervene. With Eternity absent and the powers of the eternal storm stripped away, Ororo briefly finds herself no longer the most powerful being, yet the fate of all reality rests on her shoulders. This moment shifts Storm's narrative from mutant superhero to cosmic agent of defense, forcing her to meet Hadad at a scale far beyond her previous exploits. Before facing Hadad directly, Storm engages with other thunder gods from various pantheons, including deities such as Susanu, Indra, Seth, and Zeus, each encounter further escalating the breadth of her elemental mastery and cosmic relevance. These battles are not mere skirmishes, they serve as trials that expand her command over elemental and atmospheric forces beyond mortal limits. Throughout this escalation, Storm repeatedly demonstrates that she is not just wielding weather, but shaping the very forces that sustain worlds. When Storm faces Hadad himself, the clash becomes the centerpiece of the series' thematic escalation, an Omega-level mutant standing against the primordial embodiment of storms. In these confrontations, Storm's will and elemental manipulation push her toward a state far beyond conventional Omega-level combat. She begins to influence reality on a cosmic scale. At one point, her power is described as so immense that she holds her own against infinity while suspended above the battlefield, indicating a new tier of elemental sovereignty. Throughout the arc, Storm repeatedly asserts her dominion over all elements, declaring herself a goddess not merely because of raw strength, but because of her unrestrained mastery and agency. This self-recognition is mirrored by the reactions of the assembled thunder gods and cosmic forces, who treat her as an equal in trials where mortals rarely tread. The series explicitly frames her growth as stemming from mastery and endurance, not from borrowing cosmic might arbitrarily. Eternity's involvement in the arc underscores this elevation, briefly granting her the mantle of the eternal storm signals that cosmic abstracts recognize her potential to transcend typical boundaries. Though she loses the eternal storm's direct power when Eternity withdraws to confront Hadad, Storm's deeper connection to elemental forces remains intact, demonstrating that her core abilities have themselves evolved. By the climax of the arc, her power has grown to a level where even infinity is contested in battle, indicating she now operates in domains far above her earlier mutant feats. This escalation is presented not as a hierarchy of raw strength, but as a transformation of how Storm understands and projects force, from controlling weather to reshaping elemental structures at a fundamental level. The Elemental God Council's reaction to her, questioning what to do with a mortal who has declared war on the oldest storm god, signals a shift in how divine and cosmic beings conceptualize her place in the multiverse. In these moments, Storm's narrative arc is less about becoming a cosmic abstract like eternity or the living tribunal, and more about redefining what a mortal elemental force can be within the Marvel cosmology. When she stands firm against Hadad, her power is so vast that even cosmic entities hesitate to intervene directly until the final moments of the conflict. Storm's eventual victory, hard-won and existential in scope, cements her status as a protector not just of Earth but of all reality, illustrating that her mastery of elemental forces rivals ancient deities. By the end of the Thunder War, Marvel presents Storm as a goddess, not through inheritance but through conquest, control, and cosmic acknowledgement. This distinction is crucial. She does not replace cosmic abstracts, but her evolved power places her in a tier where gods and immortals regard her as a force unto herself. In embracing that role, Storm's narrative becomes less about her being a mutant with great power and more about her function within the universal balance, reshaping elemental conflict into cosmic destiny. Conclusion. The verdict. So, in a battle, who beats her? It is a short list. You are looking at reality warpers, cosmic entities like Galactus, or maybe the Phoenix Force itself. Anyone below that tier? They are just fighting the weather. And you cannot fight the weather. You can only endure it. Storm is no longer just an X-Man. She is the Regent of Soul. She is the voice of the solar system, and she is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. The next time someone tells you Storm just controls the weather, tell them she terraformed a planet before breakfast. Tell them she holds the seat of power for an entire solar system. Tell them she is the goddess and class is in session. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the evolution of Storm, make sure to hit that subscribe button.